Alrighty, everybody. How's it going? This is, of course, your boy Bernie here along with Pete and Brad.
What's up, Bernie?
What's up, Bern?
And today, guys, we're obviously going to talk about the big thing, the elephant in the room. As you guys can see behind me, we got Jrue Holliday, Jason Tatum, as it finally happened. Woj bomb extraordinaire as we were set to record today. Some preseason talk and other kind of topics that we wanted to get into. The trade happened. You know, usually they save the trades for the weekday, so that way a lot of more people will talk about it. But the Celtics, I guess they work on the Lord's Day, and they said, hey, we're going to be making trades on a Sunday when everybody's trying to watch football. And, of course, if you guys don't know, Jrue Holliday officially traded the Boston Celtics. So we're going to get right into it. Let me hit the live scene really quick just so we can get that smooth transition. And the full trade detail goes as this. The Blazers will receive Robert Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, a 2024 first-round pick, a 2029 first-round pick, and like I said, the Celtics received Jrue Holliday. I want to open it up to you guys, people in the media, people I would say on Twitter, and, really it doesn't really matter what people on Twitter say. But for you guys, what do you make of the trade? What does this help the Celtics do? And is this Jrue Holliday revenge season for the Bucks?
What do you think, Brad?
Yeah, I think it's definitely revenge season for Jrue Holiday. Same conference, and those are like the Bucks and Celtics have had a nice little rivalry for a couple years. I also think that trading for him kind of makes the Celtics the perfect team to try to guard the Bucks. Like you have Al Horford, who's always been like a Giannis stopper in that pick and roll. You have Jrue at the point of attack who can navigate screens like nobody else. So yes. I think that it makes them in a great Marcus Smart replacement, almost an upgrade, honestly, because Jrue has a better offensive game, and I think defensively he's still better than Marcus. So just a hell of a trade.
And IQ, basketball IQ,
and IQ for sure. Yeah.
I thought you were saying better than Emmanuel Quickly. I was like, what are you talking about, Bernie? Why are you sending shots like that?
We always send shots at the Knicks,
unprovoked. This is kind of funny. I'm gonna actually this trade made me think of something. Like, Brad, you might have been right about the Trailblazers the whole time. Like, why they really traded the worst guy to go up against Dame and the Milwaukee Bucks to the Milwaukee Bucks' biggest competitor, right?
Yeah.
It almost screams to me like Portland, like, dang, they really did want to get at Dame for some reason. Like they were really upset. Joe Cronin, not happy with Dame for holding up the process this summer. Okay, Boston Celtics, you guys give the Bucks troubles all the time. Here is a Dame stopper. Here you go.
Yeah, literally.
This trade is kind of crazy. I actually really like it for a couple reasons. One, Brogdon wasn't coming back to the Celtics. I mean, all the reports we've seen, there's just no way. Like, he was traded already this summer, and he clearly was not happy about it. So that, what are you going to do? Robert Williams is like a diminishing returns type of guy right now, like, as far as I'm concerned. With all the injuries this guy has, I mean, what's he, halfway through that contract extension he signed?
Yeah,
or is he only 1 year?
He might be either half. I'll double check. Let me confirm that, but I think he's halfway.
But even then, that being said, whatever his contract is, right, there's a huge question with this team, and now it's answered, right? What were they going to do with their centers, right? You have 3 relatively highly paid centers, one of which you just traded for and actually gave a pretty big contract, and that's Porzingis, right? So there was tons of questions like, what is this team actually going to do? Who's coming off the bench? What's going on? You still have Horford too, right?
Mm-hmm.
This trade answers a lot of stuff for this team, right? For one, you figure out that center stuff, but also you figured out who Marcus Smart's replacement is, and you kind of locked in your identity as a team with this trade, right? This team is going to be a buzzsaw defensively, and actually, like, I kind of hate to sound so wishy-washy. I was just saying the last time we recorded, like, post-Dame trade, that they're the best team in the East. I honestly think this makes the Celtics the best team in the East, just straight off of, like, how complete they are on the defensive side, right? Like, I don't necessarily think that Milwaukee with Dame and Giannis is so far ahead of this team offensively that the Celtics can't keep up. But here's my one thing with the Celtics team, and Bernie, maybe as the resident Celtics head, you can, push back on this, but I don't think Jrue answers some of the bigger questions that the Celtics did need, or one of the biggest questions, which is like, who's this team's primary ball handler? Like Derek White is probably that guy. I think that seems like what they were going with coming into this season. But it's not like Jrue is necessarily a real point guard. Like I think that's kind of one of the things the Celtics kept, or the Bucks, excuse me, kept running into was Jrue was not really the purest of point guards to run with Giannis, and his shooting and just, playmaking isn't necessarily, indicative of one of the highest level, like, creators in the league. So I don't necessarily think adding him kind of answers that question for the Celtics, but I think it's one of those things where they're just betting on the defense is going to be so unbelievably good with this squad that, like, so be it. If we lose a few possessions, we'll make it up. But I'm not sure about that, guys. Like, what do you think, Bernie? Is it really just Derek White is the guy, ball handling? Like,
I
what are they
I,
going to do?
I think to me the biggest thing about this trade it was, and Pete, we've talked about this before with the Celtics, and I've mentioned this at times, is like what we really needed was a true point guard that was steady and can hold his own and steady the ship. Because if you look at our previous point guards, you thought Malcolm Brogdon would have been him. I just think the injury really affected his play in the playoffs. Marcus Smart, like I was, joking with Brad just a little bit ago, he has a very, the IQ can be on or off. And to me, that happened in the NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors, where there was just some bad shots taken at the worst moments. And I think adding a guy in Jrue Holiday, I don't think he's necessarily going to be taking over like the point guard role where he's ball handling responsibilities in terms of setting up the offense, but it's just another guy that if you swing it to him, he's not going to just take a crazy shot and be looking to kill the momentum for us in these playoffs. Like I think that was the big issue in this past playoffs against the Miami Heat, because then what it allowed to do, it allowed Tatum and Brown, I would say, to do those dribbles that frustrate me. And Pete, you know me about these guys and their dribble moves.
Yeah.
It is
Or lack thereof, yeah.
Yeah, or lack thereof, and just like wrong place, wrong time. I just feel like Jrue Holiday will be a guy that'll steady the ship. He'll be a guy that says, okay, this is not the shot we're taking right now. We're going to take this better shot. And like you said, Brad, like this is a great defensive piece that you're adding for the Celtics. Again, the liability for the defensive side for the Celtics has always been at the point guard position. A guy, they keep getting cooked, and like you talked about, can move and navigate through screens like no other. If you guys have ever watched like attention to detail basketball, he goes over either by any means or attention to detail. Great YouTube channels for like coaches that want to that study players. Like he's the perfect player to study under how to navigate through the screens, because he never, like you said, Brad, gets hit by those screens and is able to go through. And then that allows defensive coverages or like offensive pick and rolls to not really work as well, because Jrue Holiday is doing this stuff.
Yeah, this is I don't know, man. I really like this trade. The more I sit here and think about it, like I said, I do think there's questions about who's going to be primary ball handler with Jrue. Like, I mean, that has to be discussed. It's one of the reasons I think the Bucks decided to move on from him in regard to like, is it Dame or him, right? And I know that's not necessarily like, not every team has that equation in mind. Like, do we have somebody like Dame possible to come in and take over for a guy like Jrue, right? Like that's not available to even think of for most teams. But that being said, like the Celtics, that really was one of their biggest things. One of their biggest problems these last 2 years was in these clutch moments, like who's actually creating for themselves and really like primarily looking to create for others. And it's kind of, I don't know if it's going to matter with this team. That's why I have to bring it up. But realistically, like if this team can have a healthy center rotation, like if Porzingis and Al Horford can stay together, man, they are going to be really, really, really impossible to just deal with. They kind of have like what people think of like the best version of the Clippers is, right? They already have that. Like this is that team except healthy, and they've played together for 5 straight seasons now, right? 6 straight seasons, barring these new guys. But yeah, man, I really like it. I'm very excited to see it. And for anybody that thinks that they gave up too much, I mean, I just challenge you to go look at like Robert Williams. Like the games played these since he's been in the league. Go look at that. Like the dude misses games constantly. It's always 2 weeks on, 3 weeks off. All year long, every season. Malcolm Brogdon was so hurt that the Clippers last second decided they didn't want him. And these picks were going to be bottom of the barrel picks. They have all these guys locked up under contract for the next 4 years. So
did you guys?
this is a great trade for the Celtics.
Do you guys see that the Blazers are maybe looking to move on from Malcolm Brogdon, which they probably should because he's a trade asset. But
I wouldn't be shocked if they moved from Robert Williams too. They have Ayton and him now.
Well, maybe they're doing.
I think they said they want to keep Robert, but
maybe
really,
a
why
dual.
would they keep Robert?
Maybe a dual throwback, the 4 and 5 Time Lord and Ayton.
They're a weird team now. They're super weird. But think about all the stuff they got. They got Ayton, they got Malcolm Brogdon, Robert Williams, 3 first-round picks, Tumani Kamara, 2 pick swaps, and they could still do a couple more things with that stuff. That's all for Dame. That's like an incredible haul. That's crazy.
Did they get more from the Celtics than that trade they made for the Bucks?
No, just because I mean, that kind of goes into what your opinion of Ayton versus Robert Williams is. I would take Ayton any day.
Ayton too, yeah.
Which is kind of why I thought it was crazy the Celtics didn't try and just do that trade earlier in the offseason. But they ended up lucking out because I actually think this worked out better than Ayton for Robert Williams.
Yeah, man, it is great. It's a great time to be an NBA fan. Like we said, it is kind of crazy that this news dropped on a Sunday in the morning and not really something that happened during the weekday. But other than like that, the trade and things like that, I mean, Brad, what do you think? I mean, do you think that this was a good haul for the Blazers? Do you think that, what do you feel like the Blazers' next move will be in terms of the pieces that they got back? Who do they trade? Who do they keep? Like, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, I think they had an amazing summer. I tweeted it as soon as I saw the Woj notification. Like, they're in their bag. They're popping off. Well, I have a good friend who's like a Blazers homer, like super huge fan.
I'm praying for them.
And he texted me. He texted me and he was like, "This is insane. I will be tuned into all the games. The Blazers are officially fun as hell." And like that's what they're gonna be. Scoot now has Ayton to throw lobs to. Now has Rob Will if he's healthy to throw lobs to. Like they can play an amazing fast brand of basketball. You have Scoot, Shaden, Rob Will, Ayton all running up and down the floor young. Like that's Matisse even is on the team. He's someone that's super athletic. Like they're going to be fun to watch. Yeah. Like I haven't enjoyed watching Blazers games while Dame was holding them hostage because it's just been a bad team losing while Dame scores 40. But now they're going to be losing and fun, So
you literally took the words right out of my mouth. They went from like one of the most just boring, like same teams for the last 5-7 years to now like one of the most exciting young teams in the league. Like, for all whatever you think about how Portland conducted their business this offseason, it was a clinic. It was truly a clinic. Like we don't need to listen to the outside noise. If you don't like what we're doing, so be it. We're going to set ourselves up for success long term. Like, we don't care about what you guys think about us because really, that's the thing, man. People will forget the Dame stuff in 6 months. It'll be gone. We'll just talk about what he's doing with the Bucks. We'll talk about, how Scoot is playing, how Ayton looks. I mean, none of the discussion will be about, the hostage situation that was the 2023 summer. So, I love this. I love all their trades, man. I really think they set their young guys up for success. And this is maybe a big point of contention and maybe something we can revisit later on down the road. But I do think it's interesting that they perhaps learned their lessons with Dame and used Dame's exit as a way to make those problems less likely in the future for Scoot, right? Like, this is what they needed to do for Dame the whole time. Retool in like a huge way, get complementary pieces, and make the timeline match all around. Because from the very beginning of Dame's tenure in Portland, the timeline was never there. He got drafted and it was LaMarcus Aldridge's team, and LaMarcus Aldridge was never good enough to take them that far. Even though he was super solid, I'm not trying to be down on LaMarcus Aldridge. He's actually an underrated player in, recent NBA
Definitely.
history.
Yeah.
That being said, it was never going to work the way they had it laid out, but they were hostage to their circumstance. And I think that they kind of understood that this time, and we need to just play hardball and make it, like we need to basically essentially copy the Oklahoma City model, right? And take everything we have, consolidate it into youth, and then just maximize our picks and then go forward. Like, we don't care how bad we are for the next 2 seasons. Let's just get a ton of young guys. And in a weird way, I actually think like they kind of just caught up to like teams like Detroit overnight in terms of a rebuild. Like,
Pretty much.
and
Yeah.
and some of that is gonna, vary depending on what your takes are on the youth of these differing teams, right? Like, I think there'd be a lot of people that would say you're crazy for comparing Scoot to Cade, right? But even then, like, what have we seen from Cade? He had one pretty great year as a rookie, and then he didn't play last season. So it's not like he's that far ahead of guys like Scoot. So I'm interested to see, man. It's gonna be fun. Fun year for Portland.
Man, your Scoot propaganda knows no bound.
I'm sorry, man.
Trade LaMelo. I'll never forget
Guy's a
that.
true leader. Dude, just watch, boys. This is my hot take. Bernie, you know how strongly I felt about Luka when he was coming into the league. Both of us. I don't think I felt as strongly about a player since Luka that I do with Scoot.
Wow.
Just all the intangibles are there.
Bernie, what do you think? I love Scoot, but like, what do you think of this team?
I think with this team, like you guys said, it's a fun young team that you can finally watch. There's some good pieces here and there. I think Scoot has the potential and the ability to be a top player in this league. Like, I can definitely see him being like maybe like a Derrick Rose light in terms of the way that he attacks the rim. I still think his shooting, his shooting to me still needs a little bit of work. But again, like, these are NBA players for the most part. If most of these guys put in the work, I've usually seen them do pretty well. And so I think that's kind of where I think his ceiling can be. Now, I'm hoping that the other pieces around him can live up to the expectations that they need them to live up to, so they can make a deep run in a playoffs scenario in the next 3 to 4 years. I do agree with you, Pete, to a sense where I do think that this team, the young pieces, like, it's not a total rebuild. Like, it's not where the Detroit Pistons were like 4 or 5 years ago without Cade. Like, they've kind of skipped that part. They're now at this point where it's like, okay, they have some young pieces, but they also have some veteran pieces as well, or older players. And so I think that this team will be fun to watch. I think Scoot will have a fun time with his new teammates. Now it's the question of, like you said, Pete, like the timeline. Do all these guys that they have fit the timeline for these young players? And that's something that I think we got to wait and see on.
Here's my last bit of Scoot propaganda for the day. I actually really like the D-Rose comparison because I think another fair one is Ja. However, here's my one caveat. Scoot is basically, he has the athleticism of those guys. He can play like Derrick Rose or Ja, in my opinion. However, he tends to gravitate more towards like a Chris Paul style of play. Like, he's trying to play like a floor general, except he has those, athletic traits as well. So I just don't think he's going to be as injury prone as guys like Derrick Rose or John Morant. And the fact that he's going to be more of a distributor with that athleticism is actually it's going to be really hard to defend in general, especially with their other athletes. But yeah,
he's also
I like
built
the
like
Derrick
a
Rose
front wall.
comparison.
Help him.
Yeah,
He's huge.
He really is. He is built like a grown man. So, my Scoop propaganda will. I'll let it rest for the rest of the stream.
Let it rest for the rest of the stream. Okay. Well, let me leave you guys with one more question, then we can be done with this topic. Celtics. No more excuses now. I'll admit it as a Celtics fan. There's no more excuses as to how they can't get to the NBA Finals. Like, they have to beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. There's no more hiding. There's no more anything, really. Like, the Celtics have to win, or at least be in the NBA Finals. I would say they have to win. I think they have to. This is no longer the young Jason Tatum's only 19. This isn't the Jaylen Brown is still a young player. Like, the pieces that they've added, to me, like, they have to get to the NBA Finals. I know that the Bucks got Damian Lillard. I know that the Lakers have gotten better. I know that the Nuggets are still the NBA, defending champs. I feel like there's no excuses now for them. Like, they have
I agree with you, Bernie.
They have to do a better job of getting to the finals. Like, now we'll see, what happens, the Missoula thing and the Udoka thing. Like, we'll see how that plays out, but there's just no more excuses. Like, this team should be rearing to go from the start.
Yeah, that's a great question. Like, who actually has the highest stakes going into this season? Like, especially after this week of craziness. I actually agree with you, Bernie. I really do think it's the Celtics, and mine maybe is for a goofy reason, but I do think the Porzingis contract and trade doesn't help. This Jrue trade now adds into it. I think if there's anything that can go south and get scrutinized more than any other offseason move, it's the Jaylen Brown contract. Still to this point, like I really think if it doesn't go right for them, that contract is going to get just scrutinized. It's going to be a year-long conversation if it doesn't go right for this team. But with all the stuff they've done and on top of that move, they are as all in gets. So I agree with you, Bernie. I actually think the Celtics have the highest stakes coming into this season. They have to get it done this year. It can't be. And maybe, this Jrue trade actually kind of screams like, if we make it to the finals and let's say we run into the Warriors, we need to have an answer for that. If we make it to the Eastern Conference Finals and it's, Dame, we have to have an answer for that. So I agree with you, Bernie.
I agree too. I just think, the only excuse they would have is health, because that big man rotation is really shaky with Porzingis and Horford. And then
it's not great.
It's on one leg basically. Each of them on one leg.
But pretty much.
That just screams they have to have something in mind for that, though.
They signed Neemias Queta, who's young and he's actually good and useful.
I like Queta.
He's not bad.
Yeah, he
was
good.
on the.
He went to Utah, right?
Utah State. Yep.
Utah State.
Yeah, he was on the he was on the Kings team for a little bit, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
He got drafted to the Kings.
I liked him. I liked him going there. I think I actually did a NBA draft profile long ago on him.
You did, Bernie. I remember. That's actually how I found out Neemias Queta, because I'll never forget. I always thought like he had like baby deer legs. Kind of struck me as he had shaky knees, man. I'm sorry. That was
buckling knees.
He had permanently buckling knees when I was like looking at him going into the draft. But that being said, I do like him. He's pretty skilled.
Pretty athletic, big.
Yeah. He's kind of like Bol light, which Bol is Bol light. So he's like Bol light. He's like double squared Bol.
That's like that.
Yeah, man. They definitely need to figure out the center rotation, because if you got to be lying to yourself to think Horford and Porzingis are making it through the season. That's nutty.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna get some Dr. Scholl's for Kristaps for that plantar fasciitis. We're gonna call it good.
Huge red flag.
You need to get that man a new foot is what you need.
We're gonna get some Dr. Scholl's. We're gonna get a mold of his foot. Everything will be fine. We'll just have to get him new orthotics every week. But
oh my god.
But with that being said, let us know in the comment section down below, what do you guys make of this trade? Huge breaking news. This video will be put out the day of on Sunday, so I'll make sure to put that out actually after we're done recording it. But like I said, let us know in the comment section down below, what do you guys make of this trade? Who wins it? Who loses it? What is your position on the Celtics? What is your position on the Trailblazers? Let us know in the comment section down below. Please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Again, all that stuff helps us out tremendously. We hope to see you guys on the next video of The Charge, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and basketball opinions, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.